The night was cold and cruel, the kind that seeps into your bones and reminds you how fragile life truly is. Inside the towering glass hospital of St. Mary's, a man in a tailored suit stood motionless by a window, staring at the city lights below. His name was Adrian Cole, one of the wealthiest men in the country, owner of Cole Industries, a man who had built an empire from dust. Yet in that moment, he would have given everything he owned, his cars, his mansion, his billions, just to save one fragile heartbeat. His daughter Lily lay in the hospital bed behind him, surrounded by blinking machines and the rhythmic hiss of oxygen. She was only 16. The doctors had given her 3 days to live. If you believe in kindness, in miracles, and in second chances, please take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel. It helps stories like this reach more hearts that need hope. Lily had been diagnosed with a rare heart condition, one so severe that no hospital in the country could provide the donor match she needed. Her blood type was rare, her condition unstable, and her time was running out. For 3 months, Adrian had moved heaven and earth, hiring specialists from around the world, offering fortunes to anyone who could help. But medicine, he was learning, did not always bow to money. It was an unrelenting truth. Some things, no matter how rich you were, couldn't be bought. Down in the same city, just a few miles away, a boy of about 14 huddled under a broken streetlight, his arms wrapped around a worn-out dog. His name was Samir, though most people just called him Sam. He was a street kid, no parents, no home, no future. He survived by shining shoes at traffic signals and collecting plastic bottles to sell for a few coins. To the world, he was invisible. But to those who knew him on the streets, he was the kind of boy who would share his last piece of bread with a stray dog before he'd eat it himself. That night, Sam saw something that would change his life forever. As he scavenged through the garbage behind a bakery, he noticed a poster on a wall nearby. Urgent heart donor needed. Blood type, O negative. Patient, Lily Cole. Age, 16. A huge reward was offered, $1 million. But the boy didn't care about the money. He stared at the girl's smiling photo, long brown hair, bright eyes, and something inside him twisted. He didn't know why, but her face reminded him of someone he had once known. Maybe it was his little sister, Aisha, who had died years ago from an infection they couldn't afford to treat. Maybe it was because the look in Lily's eyes, the sparkle of life, felt like something he'd been trying to protect in himself for so long. For the next day, Sam couldn't get that poster out of his head. Every night he dreamed of the girl, pale and weak, waiting for a miracle. He didn't know much about hospitals or operations, but he knew what it felt like to lose someone. And deep down, he couldn't bear the thought of another child dying just because the world didn't care enough. The second morning, while begging at a traffic signal, Sam fainted from exhaustion. When he woke up, he was in a free clinic run by a kind old nurse named Sister Mary. She recognized him. He had often brought hurt animals to her door. As she checked his vitals, she asked his blood type. "O negative," he said faintly. She looked at him in surprise. "That's very rare, Sam. You're special, you know." Those words echoed in his mind like a spark in the dark. "O negative," the same blood type as the girl. His heart began to race. Could it be? Could he really help her? Sam ran back to the hospital poster that evening and read every word carefully. There was a contact number. He hesitated but dialed it using a borrowed phone. The voice on the other end was formal, distant, perhaps suspicious when he said he wanted to help. "You're just a kid," the man replied coldly. "This isn't a game." But Sam begged him, saying he was serious. The hospital eventually called him in for a test. When Adrian Cole first saw the boy standing timidly in the hospital lobby, his clothes dirty and torn, his hair messy, he couldn't hide his irritation. "This must be a mistake," he said to the doctors. "He's just a street boy." But the tests didn't lie. Sam's blood was a perfect match. The impossible had happened. Hope had come from the most unexpected place on earth. However, things weren't simple. Sam was underweight, malnourished, and his heart was weaker than a healthy donor's should be. The doctors warned that donating tissue from his heart could endanger his life. He was too young. too fragile, too poor to even understand the risk. But when they explained the situation, Sam looked up at the glass window that separated him from Lily's room. She looked like an angel sleeping, her pale face half covered by a breathing mask. And something in his heart broke. He turned to the doctor and said softly, "If I can give her even one more heartbeat, then let me." Adrian was torn between disbelief and awe. How could this boy, this homeless, starving child, offer something that no amount of his money could buy? He tried to refuse, but Sam was determined. "You have everything," the boy whispered. "Let me give you something that you can't buy." Over the next 2 days, preparations for the surgery began. The news spread quickly. A millionaire's daughter being saved by a street boy. The story went viral, and people across the city donated to help Sam get proper nutrition, clothes, and a safe place to stay. But Sam didn't care about the fame. Every time he looked at Lily's room, he felt peace. He wasn't scared of the operation. He was scared only that it might not work, that she might still die. The night before the surgery, Adrian came to visit him. He stood awkwardly, guilt and gratitude mixing in his eyes. He handed Sam a blanket, some food, and quietly said, "If you make it through this, you'll never have to live on the streets again." "I promise," Sam smiled faintly. "And if I don't, just tell her I tried." The next morning, the surgery began. It was one of the most delicate procedures the hospital had ever attempted. Outside the operating theater, Adrian waited, his heart pounding louder than the ticking clock on the wall. The hours passed slowly. Every doctor who walked by made his stomach tighten. Finally, after what felt like eternity, the chief surgeon stepped out, his eyes tired but smiling. "She's alive," he said quietly. It worked. Adrian's knees gave out. Tears filled his eyes for the first time in years. But before he could celebrate, he asked, "And the boy?" The doctor hesitated. "He's critical. We did everything we could." For the next 12 hours, Sam lay unconscious in intensive care. Machines surrounded him, beeping softly, a stark contrast to the quiet stillness of his small body. Lily, meanwhile, opened her eyes for the first time in weeks. Her father rushed to her side, sobbing, holding her hand. "You're okay, sweetheart. You're safe." But Lily's first question, with her weak, trembling voice, was, "The boy who saved me, is he okay?" Adrian couldn't answer. He looked away, feeling the weight of every choice he had ever made. That night, Adrian visited Sam's room. The boy looked so small, so fragile, but peaceful. Adrian sat beside him and whispered, "You've done more for me than I've ever done for anyone. If you survive this, I swear I'll be the father you never had." And then, the impossible happened again. Just before dawn, Sam's fingers twitched. His heart rate stabilized. Against all odds, he woke up. The doctors called it a miracle. Adrian called it redemption. Lily called it hope. Days later, when Sam could finally sit up, Lily was wheeled into his room. Their eyes met, and though no words were spoken, an entire universe passed between them. A shared heartbeat, a silent gratitude, a bond that no wealth or bloodline could ever break. From that day forward, Adrian kept his promise. He adopted Sam legally, gave him a home, education, and a new life. Sam's story inspired millions across the world. A street boy who saved a millionaire's daughter, not for money, not for fame, but because he couldn't bear to see another person suffer. Years later, when Lily stood on the stage of a medical conference as a heart surgeon, she told her story to hundreds of students. "My life," she said, her voice trembling, "was a gift from someone who had nothing, but gave me everything. He taught me that the greatest wealth in this world isn't money. It's kindness." And in the front row, now older and smiling, Sam watched proudly. He had gone from street dust to starlight, proving that even the smallest heart can hold the biggest miracle. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and share this video. It helps us spread hope and kindness across the world. Subscribe for more stories that remind us what it means to be human. Special request: tell us in the comments, what's one act of kindness you'll never forget? Because sometimes one kind heart is all it takes to bring someone back to life,